It is truly remarkable just how much Americans hate each other. And no, I'm not referring to politics. I'm not referring to the left-right divide, the woke left versus the MAGA Republicans. I'm not referring to that at all. What I am referring to is how much the average Joe hates the average Jane. And I'm not even referring to men hating women and women hating men at this point. I'm referring to every single person in this country hating everyone else, because America breeds haters. It breeds hatred within the heart and the mind and the soul of every one of its inhabitants, because here you are competing with everyone else for limited resources. You are competing with everyone else for limited clicks, for limited comments, for limited shares, for limited watch time and attention. You are competing with everyone else for the jobs that are becoming more and more scarce. You are competing with everyone else for the hot girl or the gorgeous guy so that you can flex just how much of a catch you are. You're competing with everyone else for that high profile apartment that is in the South Loop or down off of Roosevelt, Nema, Chicago, that looks fantastic. You're competing with everyone else for limited resources that are becoming more scarce. That is the game. And thus everyone in America hates each other. Now, of course, people who are proponents of raw, unbridled capitalism will claim that it works because you don't have to be completely ruthless. You don't have to be a savage. You don't have to look at another person who's making a bunch of money, who's getting a bunch of attention, who's pushing a message, who's building a brand, who's building a company, and say, I hate them because they're taking from me. You don't have to say that this is a zero-sum game. And you're right. You don't have to say that. But in practicality, practically speaking, no one does this, because Americans are not taught to do this. And even if they can be retrained, it takes too long for them to actually adopt this new way of thinking. It actually cannot be done within the allotted amount of time you have as an individual on Earth, because the programming is so deep from the beginning that you're never going to retrain an American to look at competition and say, good for them. I'm happy they're taking market share because we have a pie and that pie is constantly expanding. And there's always going to be more pie as long as I work hard and I build my own brand and I build my own business and I push my own message. It's fine that he's getting all of this attention. It's fine that he's getting all of these clicks, likes, and shares. It's fine that he's hooking up with all the beautiful girls, or she's getting all of the gorgeous guys, all of the athletes, all of the rappers, all of the celebrities. It's fine, because I can do it too, because there's an unlimited supply of resources out there in the marketplace. And I just need to work harder, and I can be a collaborator with her or him. I can be a peer with her or him, and maybe I'll pass them, and then they'll pass me, and then I'll pass them, and we'll play this little game of back and forth and back and forth. You could do that, but practically speaking, no one does, because here it's much easier, it's much more expedient to look at your competition and slander them. It's much more expedient to jump to conclusions and say, well, if they're doing something that is big, that's bold, they must be a nefarious character. They must have skeletons in the closet. They must have dirt I can uncover. And thus I'm going to. And even if I can't find anything, I'm going to make some. I'm going to construct my own skeleton that they have in a closet they don't even own. I'm going to do all of the work. And I'm going to make them look like the enemy I need to accelerate my own brand, to build my own career, to build my own business, to usurp them in the pecking order. That is why Americans hate each other. And it doesn't matter how nice they are on a day-to-day basis, because this niceness is not reflective of this dynamic. What I mean by this is that Americans can be nice to each other. Americans can be polite to each other when they don't see the other person in question as a threat, when they don't see them as someone who is threatening to take their job, to rent their apartment, to steal their girl, steal their guy, to outwork them on the pecking order, to beat them out for a promotion, to build a bigger YouTube channel or bigger TikTok audience. When they don't see them as a threat, you can be incredibly kind here in America. But whenever you do, that kindness goes right out the window. That politeness is gone, because there is no time and place to be kind and polite to someone who is threatening to take food out of your cupboard. Now, when I say that there's no kindness and politeness to be had, this is obviously not entirely true, because that kindness and politeness will still exist. It will just be used as a tool. It will just be used as a weapon to soften up the opponent, to soften up the enemy, the competition, so that they believe that you are not a threat and that you are on their side, perhaps, that you support them, that you're really happy for their success, only to stab them in the back. Because here in America, it is the law of the jungle. The only rules that apply are the rules that can be made on the fly. And those rules are made on the fly by those who have the most power to wield and have the most say-so. Say-so gained by building an audience, by building a platform, by finding dirt, by uncovering secrets, by fabricating truths, by doing all of the above. This is how you win in America. This is the American game. Now, of course, a lot of people do not participate in this game. A lot of people are farmers. They're factory workers. They live in small towns. They couldn't give a damn about this capitalistic menage. They don't care. But even those people, I would argue, they're still infected. They still have the same programming. They just are not in the right environment for the DNA to trigger. Right? Whenever you go to a new place, you move to a new city, or you take a trip, you become a different person. And you become a different person not because you decided to put on a new meat suit, not because you decided to wear new clothes, maybe you did, but you become a new person because your DNA triggers. There are all these different DNAs inside of you that could be manifest. This is coming from a layman here. But there are many different expressions of DNA that could come out of you. It's not so clear cut. And what I mean by that is that you have a DNA sequence. However, different aspects of it can be triggered at any time based on environment, based on circumstances, based on stimuli. You may be cool, calm, and collected in one scenario. You may be incredibly frantic and panicked in another. You may be super secure in your home city, but whenever you fly out of the country, not secure at all. Your DNA changes. You become more ambitious or you become more timid. This occurs whenever you go to new environments. And for these people that are not necessarily participating in the raw dog capitalism that occurs here in America, which of course is not completely raw dog because you have state intervention, you have state control of enterprise, all this stuff. It's not entirely raw dog free market capitalism. Absolutely not. And we have seen so much fraud and corruption that obviously it is not this magic hand that comes out of nowhere, that's completely ambivalent, that is objective, that cares not for the whims of humanity. Of course not. But in any case, most people in America do not participate in this game so ruthlessly, so obviously, so explicitly. They're not building Instagram brands. They're not trying to sell e-commerce products. They're not trying to pitch you on a course. They're not trying to sell life insurance so that they could become some big shot guru online who then sells a course, who then sells a coaching program. But even they are made of the same material. They're stitched from the same cloth because you can't avoid it here. You and I, if you're an American, if not, doesn't apply. But if you're an American, you and I have been programmed to think in a certain way. And it's very difficult for us to get out of this. I find myself slipping into it from time to time. This idea of competition, this idea of ruthlessness, of savagery, of strategies of war, going against your fellow Americans as if you were a general like Napoleon or Frederick the Great, using books like the 48 Laws of Power as if they were codes from the Holy Bible, from the Quran, from the Vedas. It's very strange. It's very off-putting, but you see it all of the time. And that is why Americans hate each other, is because they've been programmed to think like this. They've been programmed to act like this. They haven't been programmed to listen to others without an agenda, to speak with others without an agenda, to simply become the enlightened beings that they could become. And when I say enlightened, I don't mean ethereal to the point where you're completely perfect, as in you don't have any fleshly desire, you don't deal with temptation, you're Jesus Christ on earth in the flesh. No, that's not it. What I mean is that here in America, people don't listen without an agenda, speak without an agenda, act without an agenda, move authentically through their own unique rhythm, admit mistakes, act secure and confident no matter the circumstance, turn the other cheek without forgetting. All of these things that make you someone who people gravitate to, and in many cases become someone that people unconsciously fear, because you've transcended this game. You've transcended this law of the jungle rule book. You've transcended this system where it is predator versus prey. And if you are prey, become a predator, because then you can win the game. You've transcended it all. And when you've transcended it all, people bounce off of you. And they come around you like moths to a flame. And they stare at you in awe, and also disgust, and also curiosity, and also fear and timidity. They don't know what to make of you, because you are completely unique, because you don't fit in. You are a virus to the American code, when in truth, you are a liberator to the American code. You are the piece of code that has gained sentience and is now working to rewrite it all. That's what you become. You become the one. That is what you become when you break out of this. And in my experience, I can say that the biggest thing that has helped me transcend this game of mano a mano, kill them all, get back any sort of revenge, take things into your own hands, cast God out of the discussion room, out of the meeting when it comes to how you act. What's helped me is reducing my anger, reducing my hatred. When I say reducing, I don't mean taking a dial and turning it down, but rather identifying it, channeling it properly, and then letting it go. And when it comes to people, making conscious decisions over and over and over and over and over again for over a decade in scenarios that would piss me off automatically because of the code. In scenarios where I would get jealous, where I would have my pride inflamed, where I would have my ego stoked. Making conscious decisions to think and say, no, that's not how I'm going to act, because it's not how I want to act, because that's not who I am. Because before this programming took place, I can remember a child who did not act this way. I can remember a child who was not tainted by all of this. A child who had a vision, opaque as it was, of what I could become, of what I was supposed to be. And in these moments, I think consciously, and I create the reality I want because I think consciously. I verbalize it in my mind. I speak the breath, and through the breath, new life is created. So that I say, let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. And I will see you in the next video. Much love, peace. This is New Da Vinci. Have a blessed day.